Illinois Hills Management meeting. I'd like to first start off and welcome the two new members to the management committee, Bob Sorrell and John Cook. Glad to have you both aboard. Welcome.
Thank you.
Everybody else is in attendance this evening except for JJ, who is on vacation. Excused. So this evening, the first topic that we're going to do, we have a couple invited guests in file. Dwayne Williams to discuss some lake issues, I believe around dredging and that on the lake. So with that, jump in.
Welcome to the new members.
Thank you, Stu.
I'll tell you all kinds of stuff. Not too much. Actually, just a 1-minute history. You know, in the last couple of years, we did a 10-year study, that Lakes Enhancement Group thing. And out of that, 2 projects have bubbled up, and one being the Blankenships cove up there, not even a cove, but the valley. I guess we put a silt trap in, and then across from there would be the Williams cove that's had quite a lot of issues. So far, we did an engineering study at Blankenships. We pretty much know where we want to put the silt trap, and we have a quote on that. And so I'd like to know exactly what the quote is, and if we're going to proceed to present that to the board at some point soon.
So we do have a quote. I don't recall what that number is off the top of my head, but there were some issues with the size of that silt trap and it fitting in there where it was too big and it was unmaintainable. So we have to review that, and we still need to work out with the homeowners some easements to be able to get in there, to be able to clean things out. So it's ongoing. We do have some budgetary numbers on it. We also have some alternative designs that we're looking at as well.
Yeah, I spoke with Rick, and he said that, you know, where we originally wanted to put it is not where we originally, where we got a design from engineering. They moved it up, we wanted it back, so we could get at it easier and clean it out with our own machinery. So that's one thing, and that would be good to maybe get done through the winter months. I don't know when the availability of Jim Downward is. So put in a quote, so we give you an idea of the schedule.
Like I said, I'd have to go back and review it. I don't have that available.
I don't want to say the numbers Rick said in case that gets out and it's wrong, so I'll just leave that to hear more later.
I can review it.
Yeah.
With the man. We do have some numbers, we do have some alternative stuff.
And then
Maybe it was a fun time frame.
And then the other thing I want to talk about was what we're calling the Williams Code, which is basically lot 516. You all know we had this big rainstorm a couple weeks ago, and we just cleaned all that out, and now it's full again. And the Williamses and their neighbors have put money into that over the years, 20,000 here, 20,000 there, and they're at the point where they want the club to do what it says in the code, which is it's up to the board to maintain the amenities. And I don't blame them. They put a lot of money in. And so I've been trying to help them get quotes and talk to different people, different vendors. And I know Murty's talked to them about it quite a bit, and gone over, and we both looked at it together. So I didn't know where we were with that, because there is a timeline rush. If we want to do that mechanically, dredge that mechanically, and get in there from the ground through his property, we have to do it this winter, because he's going to redo his house and his landscaping. We will not have access to do mechanical dredging from that location after next March. So he is kind of here to hear about that. So I don't know if that'll be put in the budget. The last time we talked about digging that out, it was $40,000 from Jim Downer to go out into once the water's down, when at winter time, and dig that out. And 2 years later, gas prices, fuel prices are up. I'm sure it's gone up. So we're just kind of wondering about those 2 projects that kind of bubbled up out of the 10-year plan, and I know you got a new crew here and new people to look at this. But there is kind of a timeline crunch to get into that area mechanically, which is usually cheaper than coming in from the water. What do you know about that?
Just what you said. You know, there was, and Dwayne, I guess, can come up over here, but I know that you're having some excavation work being done in the spring, I believe. Yep. And, you know, one of the advantages that we could do is to work with whatever contractor you're having in there and talk to them to get some pricing since they already are mobilized out to site. That could save some money. So
Sure.
we would like to, you know, be able to get that and
Since I
be able to.
use the color copier and spent the money on the printing here, I'll just go ahead and circulate these. For those of you that are not familiar with the issue.
Thanks.
And I really think it's not that complicated. It can be done with a track hoe as opposed to a full dredging system. If you use my access. If you don't use my access, that's going to cost you a lot more because you will have to get a dredger in there. At this point, you can drive out. On the last page there, you'll see really the area that we didn't finish digging out because it was beyond our area. And it was kind of a shame because it's a lot of muck out there that's a result of several years ago when the road washed out. As I mentioned in the previous meeting, we took about 85 loads out of there. The whole area by Petassins washed out. It's made of digging baskets. The whole cove filled in and it filled out into the lake. I mean, it was disastrous. And we didn't have the resources, the hills didn't have the resources to clean that up. So for several years, that cove was actually mowed. Nobody could actually get back in there. So we dug as much as we could out of there. But at some point we had to stop. And so that dirt from that road is still out there in the lake. Now's the time we could get it.
Yeah, I understand that. So we'd still like to look at the contractor that you're using, like I said, for that excavation work around there.
Sure.
They're coming out. I mean,
And
it's
here's the
another
copies
source.
of what we spent. Here's the contractor's name. I brought
Okay,
Ralph Charles, for any of you that don't know. He's also in that area and doing a home build. And he has a part of the North Lake that you could drive. Still, it's the original lane, and it's how they originally cleaned out part of the North Lake. He's doing construction. You could also at the same time get out there and dig some of his area because now it's filled in from the original dig we did 5 years ago. So Tom Spone has done his foundation work.
We're using the same guy.
Yeah, he's pretty inexpensive, easy to work with, really good guy. So that's just a more budget, maybe alternative for you.
And while we're talking about that whole area, I need to know before November in the amenities meeting, if I should go ahead and get an engineering study started for that whole cove, because that whole creek along your driveway, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to slow this down through there, but we need to know surveys and easements and all that kind of thing is involved in engineering study, and I'll gladly go in and ask for it. But I need to know is,
well, I
do
think,
we want to have that in our hands for future?
I think that one of the things that the Lakes Committee could do would be to go out and to fill in some of the details on the plan with what, you know, what the anticipated remediation on each cove is, and start putting together some budgetary numbers for that, along with a longer term schedule on it. So not necessarily, you know, having them do the engineering work on it, but say, yeah, we want to look at this and you know, we think it's going to be, you know, $20,000 in engineering, and just start to put some of those numbers together
I
for
guess
us.
that's what we did with that 10-year study, but
But if you could refresh that,
it
and
needs
then,
refreshed, that's
yeah.
for sure. So
And-
we kind of have an idea. We were thinking we would do one study a year because we could get that through amenities if all the other chairs would approve, you know, what I asked for.
right, but that's a study that doesn't fix anything.
It doesn't fix anything, but it does give us a cost, and it's usually a higher cost than what we end up paying when we hire somebody. like the thing at Blankenships came in at $60-some thousand, and we're looking at not near that much from what I've heard to dig that out and put that in. So, and that's how it usually works. I mean, we had an unbelievable estimate on the North Park silk traps when we put that together. It's just sky high, and we got it done for half of what the engineering costs were. But I guess they go to the biggest and the best when they get there. The rest, I don't know. But it just does help us get our ducks in a row, knowing how many easements, and we start talking to people. It really helps. It starts the plan to have that engineering study. If there's something else I should be asking for some money for, like, let's say we go in, we know that Dwayne's Cove, that part of his cove is 40,000. So I go in and ask for 20,000 out of a minute. We've done this for years that way, split it up. You guys come up with some money, we come up with some
But
money.
I guess what I'm asking is that, can the Lakes Committee deliver a full plan for all the lakes?
I can try to do that. Some of the, yeah. I'll
I
try
mean,
to.
and then we can, but then, we need something, we need a roadmap to work with, right? And we did kind of start it with that lake enhancement
Mhm,
committee, but that really never got filled in enough to be very useful.
mhm. Okay.
So if you could, that's a good place to start with the 10-year plan that you have, refresh, just some ideas on that. But if you guys can act kind of as a project managers to help
Oh,
get that,
definitely.
we can definitely figure out how can we get it done and when can we get it done? I mean, it's,
Can I get with one of you that I work with closely to do that? Somebody want to raise their hand, or should you want to do it that way? You want to do that?
I'm always a big believer in the lakes, for obviously the little lake, but I think everyone uses that amenity whether they live on the lake or not. And, like, some of these things are kind of time is the essence too. It's only gonna go worse.
Yeah.
And, I mean, how fast could you, or we could get a proper forecast of the cost for all of it?
Well, since we already have a basic template here, just probably need to make some phone calls and take a look-see at it. Kathy Boysko helped with all the numbers and that. Maybe I can she goes back from vacation. I go with her, get the original group back together and kind of go through it again, see how they came up with. My thing was finding a costs on excavators and just giving previous knowledge of what some of the dredging costs that we did actually do, were successful with. We put those numbers in, so I'll get with Kathy.
The Jim Downer bid for 40,000, that was for the Williams Cove.
Yeah,
And
and that was the dredge. That was not to build a silk pond or dig out what he's got back behind there. That was the hump that's there before you go into the lake.
yes.
You got to put the lake down, and hopefully the lake's down long enough and the water doesn't come up in January, or, you want to be able to dig in January or February when it's frozen. But the lake doesn't always freeze underneath there, especially if you get a good snowfall, it'll insulate. And that stuff under there stays very mushy, and sometimes, you just sink to your waist in there. So they have to put down logs and things to drive across. And those guys know how to do that stuff that you're going to hire.
so Dwayne, the picture that you have of the cove with the large hidden debris and all that. When was that taken, and what was,
That
what
would
the elevation of the
be-
lake was?
That was in 2020, January 2020, I believe.
So 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Do you know what the elevation of the lake was drawn down to at that time?
Oh, it was probably, no, I don't really. I mean,
Okay,
you could walk across there, that's all I can tell you. Right now, it's probably about a foot deep, maybe 6 inches in that area, with the lake up right now.
okay.
I have to put my prop up every time I come into that area, or you get mud. I saw keep rain one time, I don't know how if I'm getting out of there, it's all kinds of mud was stirring up. But there's a lot of bugs that get stuck back in there.
Thanks.
So you asked about the amenity. When do you have to have your request in for the amenity?
That meeting's like
It's usually in
first
November.
week in November
But
sometime.
yeah, so do you have to Usually like middle of October, is that? I
Yeah,
can't.
usually the Lakes Committee will get together, figure out what we're gonna do. Everybody agree, we vote on what we're gonna do and then go for it.
Maybe if we can if we get some info, we can get some guidance prior
Yeah.
to that. So,
I've got a question for you in regards to the silt trap at the maintenance. Yeah, about 50% of that silt
Mhm.
before that
Helped a lot.
that storm.
If they had not done that.
Yeah.
That cove would have been completely filled in because the earthen dam that we built.
Yeah.
Would have been out in the lake again, and it would have been a lot more expensive. So kudos to you guys that took action right away after.
Would you be opposed to a more permanent structure in that silt area
Well,
for better access?
selfishly, that's a beautiful lot. We put 200 pine trees around that area
Yeah.
with the hope of building a home there someday to retire in, so our lake house. I don't want to look at a utility zone. If it's done tastefully, I don't have a problem with it, but if it's gonna look like a great big pond and it's scummy and moldy and moss covered, no, I don't want that.
Right.
I don't think anybody would.
No, and I'm just asking the question from a standpoint of access into that area. You know, if it was concreted or.
That would be great. And that's the problem, honestly. I mean, I agree we need some studies, but we gotta start digging. I can tell you just driving around and you took videos, I took videos. There were lots of videos floating around the internet out after that storm. And the problem is we don't have any concrete wing walls around any of our drains. So you watch the water and it whirlpools and it eats up the ground around it and it takes stuff with it. And that's the crap that's still in the lakes. If on a long-term basis, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, if we had a infrastructure special assessment, we could go around and we could put concrete around all of these drain tiles, and we would stop a lot of this. Same thing on my cove, on that one side of the earthen dam. If we just put a concrete wing wall right there, a lot of these problems would end. You don't have to spend money on an engineer. I can tell you, just start digging.
Right.
Just get rid of it. If you hadn't dug it a month ago, we would be in a lot worse shape.
Yeah.
So I just say, start digging. Forget the studies for now. Just start digging, get stuff out of there.
No, and I just wanted to verify that with you, you know, as we're moving forward and looking at these, you know, opportunities and stuff too, that, you know, I know aesthetics is important, but also access wise and, you know, if we wouldn't have dug that out, yeah, I can imagine that cove would be completely filled in. That was a rainstorm of record.
Mhm.
So I appreciate your patience and the videos, you know, because it really shows. You know, I was actually here for that night. It was after the annual meeting. And I'm like, I can guarantee there's just, it's chaos right now. From trees falling down and everything else. So I know I do appreciate
Mother
it.
Nature's.
Yes. Thank you.
So I guess out of this, then Bob will be kind of like a point on the management committee, work with Sue and the Lakes Committee to develop a long-term plan and start piecing some of what we need to do and to address short-term and, you know, just midterm and long-term things to start building that roadmap. Would it be fair to say then next meeting that you come back and, you know, we get an update on where we're at with that plan? And, you know, if there's some numbers and schedules and things like that to talk about too. Okay, thanks. And thanks guys for coming in. Appreciate it.
That's water. No, I don't know if there's water back there.
Thanks, guys.
See you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So that's gonna take us on to the club financials. Andy and Julie.
So, our capital balance as of 8/31/2022 is $190,166.99. Very healthy capital balance. And you can see on sheets that are provided under capital expenses. I don't have to go into too much detail, but at least it gives you an idea of what we spent through 8/31, what we're committed to in regards to funds coming out of capital. what we propose to look down the different purchased or committed and proposed items. Moving forward, when it comes to capital expenditures and depreciation account, I'd like to work with the management committee and Julie and John especially, and to look at these figures, look at our planning. Long-term planning is very, very important when it comes to our capital and depreciation. And I'm having conversations with our departments in regards to equipment needs, regards to capital projects. And Marty and I have been working real well together on, especially this large electrical project. And we see the figures and we go, okay, how can we make this happen? And so prioritizing, I think, is very, very important in the long term.
So when do you start those discussions with maintenance and?
I've been having them ongoing. We have them, I talk about it daily.
Yeah.
They'll bring an idea to me, or they'll say, hey, this equipment is, looking like it needs to be replaced within the next year or 6 months and so forth. So I'm jotting this down, but I would like us to get kind of on a schedule a little more of prioritizing those. When we've got a depreciation schedule here, you can look at depreciation, but I think that we need to look at it again and then involve our maintenance, involve our security and so forth when it comes to these different things, and then talk about it as a group, how we're going to tackle it, how we're going to approach it and prioritize it.
So you don't anticipate any emergency purchases, and well, it's an emergency, so why would you anticipate that?
Right.
But any sort of pressing purchases between now and the end of the year?
When it comes to equipment, we've been, Marty had mentioned it, we ordered 2 fairway motors last year? I guess it was last year.
Yeah,
February
last year.
and I think September or something. And we've yet to get those mowers.
Right.
We were promised the mower several weeks ago, and I put in an email today to say, okay, this is a joke. Where's our mower? But those are really, really important items, especially for the golf course, because we've been doing a lot of equipment repair with the equipment we have. So that's why our equipment repair costs have gone up, and just hanging on or repeat on some pieces of equipment. We've got some newer equipment that we've been using, but it's a big place. So there's a lot to take care of. So anyways, getting back to capital and depreciation, I would appreciate the discussions as we have our war room discussions and so forth. Let's start prioritizing our equipment base, our capital projects and so forth that we're moving forward. That way, it makes it a little bit easier for Julie and I as we're looking at the numbers each month to say, okay, this fund is still healthy, but if we anticipate having to spend X number of dollars in the next 4 or 5 months, what's it going to look like? And as you take out that capital expenditures and as you take out those depreciation from our operating, which shouldn't be an operating, then we can really get a good picture of how healthy we really are. So you can look at the numbers here, and if you've got any questions about it, you can ask Julie.
So I guess just overall, since nobody else could really see it, I mean, if everything stays to plan with what we're planning on spending, what are we looking at for the end of the year?
For capital,
Overall, yeah, capital and overall health.
I think that overall health, we wanted to do a balance for 305 as a healthy cushion. And with figures that we went through yesterday, we're looking at about an estimated balance at the end of the year of 386,000, 247. So about a 70,000, almost $71,000 contingency. Now that could change. We'll go into it here when we talk about projects, but the roof, the lodge needs a roof. So we have to look at those expenditures. And we've got the lodge electrical. We had budgeted a certain amount for this year, and then there's going to be more for next year. So I feel that this capital budget is healthy, but it could change rather quickly, just depending on weather, depending on circumstances.
You haven't really looked at a cost of the.
No, we're in the process of doing that right now. I did have, well.
Okay.
Any questions on capital? Go ahead.
Go ahead, no,
No.
you're good.
All right. And then if you look at depreciation, or your sheet there, I don't think I printed that one off. So our depreciation balance as of 8/31 is 436,596. Very similar to that of capital. And we're looking at balance floor of about 300 grand. And right now, with the purchases that are committed and proposed and future deposits, we're looking at probably a balance of about 391, so about a $91,000. Again, very healthy account. However, we do need to prioritize our equipment expenditures moving forward here. We're happy that we got a truck, and when I first started here for security, we were thinking about trading that one in and another one in. But now with 3 vehicles, it's easier on me, it's easier on security. So we have 2 vehicles that are down below, and I can use one to go around. And that purchase was they were like, we've got one in stock. And we're like, you have a truck in stock? So that was good planning on everybody's part. And we want to make sure that we're doing good planning moving forward here. Any questions on depreciation? Okay. So that's that. Julie, do you want to talk a little bit about funds transfer?
Yeah. Our funds transfers is basically where, the money, most of it goes into our operating account, and then we move funds to our depreciation and our capital and amenities, just to kind of spread that out. So all of the accounts at this point look healthy. We have capped the amount on the amenities. So there's 75,000 that'll be available for committees to request. And then, so we're in good shape there. There's some transfers we still need to do, but we're up to date on most of those. So.
From an operating budget standpoint, the areas that we are watching are fuel expenses. Obviously, they've gone up in the past year. Utility expenses, and that includes not only electric and propane or gas, but that also includes our internet service. Just so everybody's aware, we've had some issues with Spectrum, especially with internet connectivity down there at the security building. We're down the low valley. It is fiber that runs in there. I have talked to Spectrum, and now we have an account representative from Spectrum that's working with us hand in hand in regards to, we have Spectrum Business and we have Spectrum Enterprise, and that's where the problems lie. So they're rolling everything under Spectrum Enterprise, and we're going to go through it. So it's been a hard fought. I mean, we haven't got the cooperation that we needed, but now I think that we're making it. I did get an email from our account representative just today because I was following up on a couple of things, and he said, I'd like to talk to you. I've got some ideas. So that's good news. Hopefully that phone call will be better news. Yeah. Food and beverage expenses are up, especially our beverages. That's something that I want us to look at as a management committee very, very closely in regards to our inventory, because we do take inventory every month, and they did inventory before Justina left. But we need to have that conversation, pretty close conversation in regards to our inventory and what are we selling, the alcohol for, so for both the lodge and equipment repair is up. fixing equipment that had broken down or that we're waiting for new equipment to come in. And then payroll expenses, usually that's your highest cost or expense associated with it. We about broke even on our maintenance, broke even on, actually we're under when it comes to lodge and clubhouse. But we are over on security, and that's because we have less personnel and there's overtime that's associated with that. So again, it's something as we're moving forward in this management, we need to look at very, very closely.
I think what we've discovered is if we could hire people, it's gonna be cheaper than paying what we're doing for overtime. So we should be saving, once we get fully staffed, we should see the numbers actually almost probably go down from where they are right now. So,
There will still be some overtime as we agreed, as I talked to the
Right.
department. But we can reduce that down to 75%. That's better than. So, we are looking for people and qualified individuals. So. And then lastly, on finances, unless there's anything you want to add, Julie, and a meeting with each department, discussing budgets for next year, getting them involved in the budget process along with Penny in our office. I think that's the right way to go.
So when do you plan on having something that we could start reviewing?
Yeah, so we'll probably start this end of September, early October. Review probably have, I would think that we could have the management committee at least looking at it in November, or if not, if we have an off meeting. Any questions regarding our financial status? No.
I'm just going to mention that I think as I've been talking about, we've been working on doing a cash flow analysis. So I've been able to go back and kind of just recreate for the last 7 months and going forward through December. And at this point, we carry on average about $200,000 at the end of the month after receiving the income and paying out our expenses. So we will all take a look at that and decide, is 200 the right number? Should it be more? And how do we get there? And then keeping in mind, we only have a couple ways that we get income, and that's through the assessments and the new member fee. And so this budget's going to be a little more challenging because we have inflation and we don't necessarily have the amount of inflation built into what our assessments are. So but I think we have room to work with that. But
We're also looking at new member fees. If I'm looking at this correctly, right now we're sitting at 65,805, and we had budgeted 158,930. Correct?
that's correct, but was part of the
Removal. Is that
the
what-
removal, which is kind of odd that where so we're kind of on budget with the new member fees. Let's see, we're pretty much flat. It's just that a portion of the new member fees, 40%, so 75,000 up to 75,000 gets allocated to amenities. So
So you've already moved that, basically.
yeah. So, yep.
Good. Any other questions? Any other discussion? All right, let's gonna move into the project updates. First one, the RFID project.
Well, RFID went live today. And we've had a few glitches. And it's mainly been doing just kind of switching from the clicker system to the RFID. And we've had SoCo, who's our contractor for the gates, in today to adjust. The main thing that was happening today, they just installed yesterday, they installed I call them SOS boxes. They're mounted inside the gate there, and it's for first responders. So when they hit their siren, the gate opens up. Rather than having decals for every vehicle. It needed to be adjusted a little bit because we're having the gate either not open or stay open. Especially the Bremen gate. So they were in today and adjusted that. I will have an update probably tomorrow from Silco and maintenance in the first thing, switch it over. And so we are live. There have been a lot of people, unfortunately, that said they didn't know anything about the RFID. Not hard to believe, but there have been a lot of people in the office today, especially filling out applications, and we're hoping to get most of those applications down to security by Thursday, so they can get them installed. So I would say overall, and it's been a little stressful in the office, to say the least. But I think that we've handled it really well, and we put out communication to say we're going live at 13. So I would just encourage everybody to have patience with their security, have patience with our office staff, as we're going through this. This is a new process. We've never done any project like this before, but we've learned a lot in the process. And then updates on the outside of the vehicle decals. I know that there's been people asking about the motorcycles and so forth. I did gain 75 decals from Silco yesterday, and we'll start one by one putting those into the database and then contacting the people for the installations. The unfortunate thing about the outside decals is that our provider, Silco, there's no more in the U.S. They cannot get them. They're not producing them. I'm not sure what the deal is, but their availability is, they have nothing in the U.S. For outside decals.
Silco has no other options for that.
Not that I'm aware of.
So we have 75.
We have 75.
Do you have an idea of how many were
Um,
requested?
I don't, but I know there's a lot of people requesting it, especially for motorcycles, especially for, side by sides and so forth. So, because I put in the call yesterday to him, I said, yeah, all right, you give us 75, but we're going to be wanting more. It may not be till next spring at this point, but he said, I don't have any available in the United States for outside detail.
Andy, could you still use the vehicle? Because we have in our cars for the Polaris per se. I put it on the inside of the windshield.
A lot of, you probably could, but there's a lot of them that don't have windshields, like motorcycles and stuff too. That's why they're concerned, like, why not windshield?
I'm just thinking if we as a collective committee would say, I don't need one announcement.
Yeah.
Save that for motorcycle guy or whatever.
Right. I think everybody's cooperation is important, especially because the availability is not there. If it would be one thing if we were able to get them in, a month, but they don't happen.
And those are proprietary to Silco, or can you purchase other RFID?
I don't think so. I think they're proprietary. Okay.
That would be a good idea. If anybody has a windshield and they put in for one, say, can you just use one of the tags we have?
Right.
For the cars. And
It sounds like
people
they have-
without windshields get them.
Linda, it sounds like you can produce those. Meaning, addition being the exterior ones.
Yes.
They have a limitation. But the interiors, we could.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Even golf carts, because I know people have requested them for golf carts. They all have some sort of windshield.
Yes, I mean, I'd say
Most
90%
do.
of them.
Most
speaking of the decals that go on the inside of your vehicle, we did purchase, actually, South Central Power purchased for their emergency vehicles that they have. They purchased 150. And we were able to get those. They were in Dallas, Texas, and they were able to get them. They're shipping now. So those are available. So that's good news. It's just not so good news. It's the outside.
I think people do, they quickly respond like myself. I don't get it outside, but meaning they know that
Right.
we're limited to it. Nobody, challenge you or say, gosh, why didn't you know that? I mean,
Right.
It did call me on one about
So I guess just the patience with the offices, they're trying to process these. It's a little bit different effort than inside Decals. It's a little different process and they have the process. Kind of a common process, but I just wanted everybody to know that that's what we're doing. South Central Power is paying for those. And they'll cut us a check and they were like, at first they wanted 145 and we said, well, they come in batches of 10, so you're getting 150. They're like, great. At first they had like 250 vehicles. You're like, whoa. Okay. You know, pick and choose your vehicles. So I think overall, I would say that process is going well. We put the communication out there. If you're frustrated, I'm sorry. That's all I can say. And just be patient with our office and our security as they're installing them.
But the SOS boxes as of today are working okay.
Yes, as far as I know, they left today that they are working. They were working yesterday, but they just needed adjusted. I think what was happening is the gate was opening up and vibrating, and it was the frequency inside those SOX boxes. The gate open.
Not to relate this, but from my knowledge, say that it didn't work. They call the guardhouse and say, open, the Bremen gate.
They could with the Bremen gate. That's the only gate that they could open. And they could do the maintenance gate as well down below. But the other two gates, Fort Hill and Shannon Forest, we can't open those.
But egress are like typically through the Bremen gate for those emergency services.
It is. And then we've got one set of first responders that go always at the front gate. So there's always someone there.
So on the back to the outside decals, how are we prioritizing those, or is it first come, first serve?
It is a first come, first serve. We've already had a number of applicants for their motorcycles and stuff too, so they'll be the first on the list. Looking at theirs, and Penny and Christine are working that out in the office. If you got questions and concerns about that, please give them a call.
Could we get it, maybe, could we get an update that would go out just, and even say that if you're looking for decals, that we're very limited on the outside, but interior, so if you have a windshield on your vehicle that we could put inside, that would be the way to go.
I'd even sell to the point of, hey, but good news. Interior stickers work on the inside windshields, therefore they're more weather resistant. So if you'd like to have that,
Right,
I'll take that one.
right.
I would caution on one thing, that all these RFID tags we put into our database, so they're exclusive to that member and that vehicle,
Right.
especially the license plate. So if we start swapping stuff,
No, I don't get swapping.
No, that's-
No,
Initial.
your initial, you're encouraging them. If I came in and I had a golf cart and I wanted,
Yeah.
so I would know, oh, I don't need exterior, I can have interior. That's where the communication.
and I think that there's still a number down in security that people need to make appointments. I know security has been flagging people down, saying, I got your RFID tags, and they just.
Yeah.
So.
I know, like I said, and I told you and I've told Randall, that we still have one down there, it's just because we can't get the car there.
Right.
So, and we hardly ever use the other gates. We usually always come in the front
I
one.
think a lot of guests too. They have a lot of guest tags. Number of
Yes.
Guests down.
Yeah, so,
Family members that haven't come through yet to get them.
Right.
In terms of communication, do you want to wait? Do you want to put out something now about the golf cart, motorcycle, the outside, or give the office a few days to catch up on what's been happening?
I would like to go ahead and have the office catch
Yeah, that's what I was
up.
thinking. So we'll wait a little while,
Okay.
a few days before we put something out. on
And I
that.
think communication is very important, but people need to know that we only have.
yeah, and that's where I was going. That would be the main purpose would be we are limited. So you can help everyone out.
Like, can we just say if it has a windshield, it gets the interior tag?
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
done with it, right? If it quits working, then we'll give you another one.
So if I came down, this little interior will work on this.
Yeah, 'cause
That's
it's
what you
going
would
through
give 'em.
security. to get those put on. So yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
great.
Anything else on that? Okay. Management software.
So just to fill both John and Bob in, the club has purchased unmanaged software called Condo Control. That are not condos, of course, but the name throws everybody else. And that is being, that's an ongoing process right now in regards to kind of onboarding. And our first, I've got some dates here. So we've been working with Kerrigan, Linda Hodge, Julie, myself. Rex was a little bit involved in it. Who else? was
Cookie
involved?
Construction.
Yeah, Cookie Monster. In regards to, we finally figured out which management software we use. We went through a series of resources and so forth. We narrowed it down to Condo Control. Longest lasting management software and so forth for an HOA or this. They've got bases out of New York and Toronto and I think Miami. And we're a very unique community. So we decided to go with them. And so we've had our first kind of informal meeting with people that are involved in the process as they migrate our website over to their templates and data and stuff like that, pulling it off our current website. So we'll have a new website. It will be, it is an app, smartphone. Our first phase, we really wanted to concentrate on package tracking as well as security. And then
Website. So
Yeah, the website.
yeah,
Yes.
so we can get more
Communication.
communication
Right.
out.
Maybe do the
faster.
digital board, there's opportunities to do digital display for community,
Yeah.
for updates and stuff, so.
And we won't have only 4 days a week of the possibility of sending out e-blasts that are only, we can only do 4 a day. It takes 2 hours, which people may not realize. To get an e-blast out full cycle before you can send another one, it takes 2 hours.
Right. And this process too, it has, the app is capable of push notifications. So, you get an emergency ice storm or thunderstorm or flooding and so forth. It's gonna push that out and we don't have to wait on a computer for 2 hours and say, well, that's old news.
Bringing that was provided everyone, if you can provide like guests that are coming in, maybe take the stress off the front gate too.
Yeah. We're still doing kind of backup systems. I talked with security today in the office too. When it comes to packaging and stuff like that, we're still, as our backup system, we're still doing the way that it's working. The overall overreaching goal is to reduce the amount of paperwork and mistakes and so forth. I don't want people to get the impression that this management software is going to solve every issue, because it's not. It's going to be a step-by-step process. And I've told my departments and everybody in our departments, this training is going to be a step-by-step process, and I'm with you. And if we have to slow it down, slow it down. And so we're all on the same page. That includes the office and stuff. Anyways, we're going to do training for our key staff. That will probably be more like security and office staff, myself, and some board members and people that have been involved in it. September 27th, which is a Tuesday. They do onboarding through Zoom. They used to come, I think they used to come.
They did before COVID,
Right.
and they discovered Zoom works easier and is more cost effective to do it
Right.
that way, so.
We did just recently purchase a smartphone for security. Believe it or not, you can only find these at yard sales or used to have a flip phone. So, and it wasn't good. So now they have a,
You're scaring your texting.
right.
What's the one?
So anyway, just with a little humor there, they do have a smartphone down there now for package tracking. That spot. But we felt that we needed an upgrade along with our maintenance. So we've got 3 phones and I've got a phone too. They're iPhones. They work much better than trying to do the rotary phones.
Yeah, yeah.
Any case, but in all due seriousness, because we're making that step up. I think our major issue that we still have to contend with is our connectivity issue. Down in because it is fiber, but the hub to that fiber is Blankenships, and it doesn't always reach us. And when we're out on, when the internet is out, power is out, we're shut down. And so we just need to be looking at that. That's why we're working the spectrum so close to make sure that we've got that. We've got backup systems. And I would say too, just that while we're talking about management software, is that we used to have a landline as a backup for security for phone, because we're all internet-based phones. So if the internet goes down or the power goes down, we don't get 911 calls. So having a rotor or having a landline as a backup. So we're in the process of that. So what's that?
There is no direct.
No.
It's like we have to, that's a requirement in Columbus for elevator purposes.
Yes. Yes. We do have the landline still there. It's through a different company. But thankfully that the line is still there. So we don't have to go boring underneath everything. The timeline and training. We're looking for a soft launch in this in the middle of October, or the end of October. I think it's October 21st, I think. Putting it out to members and so forth. Again, just first phase. Package tracking, guest list, website, that kind of stuff. Payment options and so forth. That's the second or third phase.
That's way down.
It's way down.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah. So
I can't pay my bar bill next week on my phone.
no.
You can just give it right to me.
I'll give you my Venmo account.
Just to kind of reiterate what Andy said, we're gonna go at the pace that we're gonna follow our process, not theirs. So if our office staff needs a bit more time, if they need to get more comfortable, we're going with their process. So that, depending on how well they get acclimated to everything, we want them to be comfortable before anything gets launched out there for members.
So what are we gonna do in between 9/27 and then mid-October? What are we?
It's still it's just an onboarding process. They did about 4 weeks, but they say 3 to 4 weeks of
4 weeks
onboarding,
usually.
but sometimes it's a little bit longer.
But they're gonna start taking data, right?
So
Go ahead.
I guess, so I mean, what's involved in that, right? Because help me understand it, because it like seems like the package tracking and the security thing would be pretty easy to implement, at least in my head, right? But
They have to, obviously the onboarding process, they have to do a data transfer and get that website up running. And we've got the access database that we work off of. We're not getting rid of the access database, but the exporting process may be a process. And so there may be a little bit of delay in there. It just depends on their process. I mean, we've been getting usually daily emails or a couple of weeks, this is the process that we're in, and so forth. We already have a dashboard we're talking about, but it's somewhat, there'll be different rights that you go into. Like, so there'll be administrative privileges, there'll be just member privileges, and you'll only be able to do certain things. We don't want to get everybody the idea that we got free access to all, access member, there's. So,
So they've already, I mean, if I'm not, in our timeline, Condo Control, we've already started giving them some stuff so they can be,
yeah, they're already.
exporting
we've already exported
information
the
to them.
Website information, they're downloading
Yeah.
forms, so they're in the process.
They haven't migrated the access
No,
database
so
yet.
that's not till, I think we had to pick out a website template and then the access database is not till like September 21st or that week.
And that's got to get in there before the package, because that'll have all the member
It's got
addresses.
So that's like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's ongoing activities right now, so we're not waiting until the 27th to start. All of that. Okay.
And yeah, I think the 27th was mostly built around availability by employees and what was going on with them. So we get a group together who could go through the training.
Yeah, there's back office stuff happening. That's just the day that
Yeah,
the staff will first sit down with them.
Right.
And see it.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the Lodge electrical project. So you guys, we handed out the quote on there now. Kind of back up a little bit here and Andy does do a little history, right? So the electrical feed coming into the lodge that covers the lodge and the pool all comes off the transformers that are out front of the lodge. Those transformers and that whole line that runs north to south there is owned by Highway Hills. The metering on that is out beyond that. So when South Central came in and they were going to bury the 3-phase line in here, we started talking to them about replacing that because that transformer is a 1960s vintage, along with the main panel inside the building itself. And the big concern is that inside the building is a fire hazard. We're kind of on borrowed time right now. And so we started looking at, okay, how are we going to upgrade this? What are we going to do? And go along with that. So as part of this, those transformers go away. There'll be a new transformer that'll be mounted outside of the lodge building here. The plan, and I'll pass this drawing around. It's a full-size one, so it's kind of cumbersome, but it kind of gives you a rough layout of the general arrangement out there. And so we've got several pieces of equipment out there. Right now we have the transformer. We have allocated some space for a generator, emergency generator. And then along with that, we have a main panel and then an automatic transfer switch. So if we lose normal power, it'll start the generator, transfer over to that automatically, and then feed everything out there. And this is all going to be in the area that is on the southwest end of the building, kind of where that, just above the driveway coming in from the kitchen, right over in that area. So, and it's going to extend up to the road. We've proposed that we relocate the road coming up by the lodge to go behind the parking area right now, back by the, around the dumpster area, so that whole area can be opened up. We can, we can add more parking, we can move the handicap parking closer to the entrance, so that we're really in compliance there. And then over in this area, we could probably, because the equipment is going to be below the road level, we'll probably, we're thinking about maybe taking out that portion of the road right there as well, right? Removing that or not allowing any vehicle access in there. And then there'll be some fence and things like that to go around, and we haven't gotten to that point. And then this also includes rewiring all the main feeds inside the building. We've had a separate project that we're working on that is addressing the safety issues that are in here out of the existing panel. So there's been a lot of rewiring that's already been going on inside here, but we still have more to do on that. If you guys want to. So there's still a lot more to do, and what you see in the proposal, and once we get everything finalized, we'll kind of simplify it all, because this lists out all the different breakers, all the different panels and things like that. The total on this project is about $310,000. Where I think we figured, was it Andy, about maybe 100,000 in 2022.
Yes.
And then the balance would be in 2023. But as I was thinking about this, is that, the cost of the generator is roughly 45,000, plus that automatic transfer switch and all the associated wiring and things like that. We could probably take that out and then put in something to manually transfer over. And, I was looking at that, we can rent a generator. There's options that we can do with rental companies, right? We could, say we wanted to make sure we had it all winter long, right? We could just rent it for the whole winter, and have it on standby, just, have it pulled up into place, plug it in, and away we go. There's some other avenues that we could do with the rental companies too, as far as having it down with them and things like that. But it's a way to save some money, at least in the short term, right?
If it's really about when that's needed, somebody else may want it as well, though.
Well, that's what we would have it kind of like on, I forget how they termed it, right? But it's basically sitting there for us on demand, right? When we have it, it's an agreement that we have. It would cost us money, but I did a quick search online, and it was, I want to say, a monthly rental on one of these was like $2,600 a month. So $2,600 a month, and we had 45,000 in there. That 20 months, right? So we got something that we can work with on there. Plus, it buys us time, and it's an option that we're looking at, we're exploring, seeing what the costs are and the impact on that.
So in an emergency situation, you would be able to get that here if there was inclement weather?
That's
Possible?
It's possible. That's why I say, we could just rent it outright, right?
For the month and
For a month, 3 months, whatever we thought, was necessary. I don't know how we would gauge like when we would do it, because the power could go off in the summer.
I think winter's bad, but
it's summer,
we had that hurricane season, we were out for 5 days, 6 days, remember that?
Yeah, and so those are some of the things the options that we're doing, and in this past winter, we really noticed that, we needed some place as a warming station, right? But we do have the generator at the clubhouse, right? That's already there. That's a smaller one, but we could fully utilize that as a warming station if we needed to. The lodge, the big issue is going to be the food. And then also, do we need to maintain operations inside here, right? So it's an option, and I do want to kind of piece that together and show everybody that. But I do want to talk to and bring this out with everyone right now, as far as like what we're looking at from a total cost standpoint. And as you go through this too, you'll see in the back of it, there's an invoicing schedule, so that you can see what the outflow is going to be. And the months that are in there are just for discussion purposes, right? Because it starts in October of 22, and I don't think we're going to be there, right? I would just go off of month 1, 2, 3, and so on.
I want to add too that when we met, Rick was involved in that, well, Marty, myself, Area Electric, and we really sat down and took a look at this, like, really in depth. And Marty's right. We want to make sure that we're doing this in the right sequence, because we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We want to make sure that this project is getting what you pay for.
Right.
And when we were looking at this invoice schedule, and again, it was just a tentative schedule, just to put some numbers together. But we knew the process we had to go through. We had to go through management first and then vet that. And then eventually has to go to the board because of the price and so forth. So we thought about these things. So when you see it, that invoicing schedule, that's just for your reference.
Why is it 309? Does that represent cost for driveway change?
This is just for the electrical portion. So the cost of that, any landscaping that would need to be done up there is not accounted for right now.
That road's not paved either, is it? The behind road
Behind?
between the mailbox and the dumpster?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
And is the dumpster electric service an upgrade to current service, or is it because of the move?
It's because of the move, and it's got its own meter out there.
Okay.
So, yeah, and thanks for pointing out, John. So one of the other issues too is that right now we have one transformer that feeds this in the pool down there. So part of this project too is with the pool building, that there'll be a second transformer that'll be mounted over by the one pole that's out there right now, that where the feed comes down and it goes down to the pool building. So that'll have a transformer there. The trash compactor dumpster is going to be on a third transformer that's over in that area. Back, everything kind of comes together back behind there. And so we split that out also based on permits that are going to be needed, so that the pool and the trash compactor are going to be one permit, and then the lodge is going to be a separate one. And it actually, that comes down to really that there's two jurisdictions. The lodge is Fairfield County, and the pool, and that's Hocking County. So we have to deal with that as well. But those costs, and I think the pool and the trash compactor, we can clean things up, and we could probably discuss that a little bit more, because those costs are a lot less, right? I think one was what, 30,000.
Yeah, 30,000.
30,019. Yeah.
That invoicing schedule shows too, again, how they'd like to start sooner rather than later before the snow hits.
Yeah.
It helps on the labor costs and, mobility. So again, as project managers that we're all here, we really want to, we're really going through and vetting out project. And that's how it should be done. Not just to say, all right, sign off on it, let's go from there. We want to make sure that we're getting it.
When do you guys anticipate you might take this to the board?
I was hoping to do it this month, but I don't think I don't know if I'm going to be ready with everything in a month or within a week. I mean,
I think it would be next month.
October?
yeah. So Area Electric, Jim Schmidt is a resident member here. So we're sole sourcing it through them.
What was the dollars for year one or this year, 2022? What did?
I think it was like 100,000.
Okay, so we have that kind of in there. And we've
And
already purchased, or we've already paid some of it, is that correct?
yeah, and
Okay.
there's some, we've issued I think 4 or 5 purchase orders right now. And they have not used everything. So we still have money that's left over from the work that we were doing in here that we can apply to.
When you look at the invoice, when you looked at the invoicing schedule, through the third invoice, which is December of 2022, 115,000, right, which represents just the, help me understand what the 115 invoicing represents.
I believe in this schedule, it goes with the pool project and the lodge project. The first 3 line items, basically,
First 3 line items on,
On the invoicing schedule. So 1, 2, 3.
yeah, but the pool project is less than what the first invoicing is, right?
So the first invoice would be, the month one invoice would be 45,470. Right, that's 15,300 on the lodge, 30,000 on the pool.
I guess the question is roll up into that. Is there a breakout of which piece is going to be done when? So in other words, if you're looking at, saving some costs and doing some other stuff in the future, are you already paid for things that are built into future project costs? That makes sense.
Yeah, like the piece of the lodge, that 15,000 on the lodge, that would be to
Is
cover
that part of this first part here?
it. I don't know.
Okay.
It's gonna be on how they do the work.
Right, exactly.
These are just the major areas.
Right.
How they break
Right.
things out.
Right.
Right. So the first part is the, hydro.
Excavation.
The excavation.
Right.
Right. The existing
Right,
pipes,
right.
expose all
Bollards,
that.
walls.
Excavation.
And then
That's
they
all
start-
the,
Then they start.
that's all the
panels.
prep work.
Right,
Right. And so those are gonna be the first things that are gonna happen.
right.
And then everything else then is, getting into the feeders
Actual-
coming in and the different panels.
Right.
But then when you look at the pool project, that's the pool.
To answer your question also, John, there were purchase orders that were put in prior to this estimate for upgrades in the electrical. And I think the date were around 15 grand. I'm not sure what the total purchase order.
That's basically prep work for.
Right. They had to eliminate some panels and things that were old.
Yeah.
And reroute some of the wiring. So, and then put a new panel in the back.
Got it.
We have working smoke alarms at this point.
What's that?
Working smoke alarms at this point. Where's the exit? Where's the exit doors?
But, yeah, so, and then if you get into the distribution panel, and electrical equipment options, right, it would be one or the other of those, right? Probably, we would probably go with 1,000 amp panel, right, that save $11,000 from that.
Right.
Right? And then if we did not do the backup generator,
Generator.
yeah, and then whatever the cost of that automatic transfer switch is, most of that would come out, it'd be offset with some manual panels.
And then the budgets, just to understand the budget side, there's $100,000 budget this year for the project, right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Is that what we have? 100,000, yeah.
Right, and then so next year, we haven't budgeted, we haven't anticipated what that budget. amount
We
is.
have had, but not this amount.
Yeah,
We've
we
had
were-
discussions about it.
I mean, what we do in the capital, we try to take both the capital
Yeah.
and depreciation out for a few years, so we kind of had that.
So, yeah, and when we put this in, it was just a pure thumb suck. Yeah, not very good at that, so. We found out what the costs are here a month or so ago.
Right.
Is when we did this.
Started.
We wanted to get actual costs to talk about it. So we've got the full design done. So we have everything we need to go forward with pulling permits
Got it.
and ordering equipment.
Yeah.
And that, we just need to work through what do we want to do?
Right.
And then how can we, I do think that we need to kind of skinny up this number somehow, right? Because 300 is a pretty big chunk.
It's a big, yeah.
This gives us a framework to look at our next year. Say, okay.
Yeah.
Here's other capital expenses, that we were.
Right.
A lot of that kind of stuff. So that has to all go into play as we like
Right.
next year out as well. So I agree with Marty. We're trying to skinny it up. We're not trying to, not have a major panel, like, well, it's just blank. Or I can't, but
Yeah, no,
we're just trying to do our due diligence.
but I can't stress enough that it is something that needs to happen, right? We have had one fire here.
Right.
And.
Well, that was my other question. Would our liability insurance obviously drop because of wiring?
Or just for your insurance in general. That was mentioned. I mean, your background's electrical engineer. So I mean, I just have record. It's nice to have that.
Well, not residential or commercial.
Yeah, you know,
So,
I mean, I've just been a light bulb. But you bring something to the table here. You know, I think we're always gonna be challenged because of numbers.
Mhm.
So.
yeah, but, this is, like we said, we're getting into budget time and we wanted to talk about it as early as we could in the process. So we.
And we got these lead times too for generators and stuff. We said, we initially met, we were like, okay, well, how long does something like this take? Is it even available? Right? And
Yeah.
when he came back with these numbers, we were pleased with the availability. It just helps our planning process.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a couple of things that are out there, though. I mean, the main panel is at 22 weeks, right? And then one of the breakers, or actually two of the breakers are on there at 40 weeks. So those are, still long lead items. And that stuff is changing daily and it's not getting any shorter.
Like, I think there's an incurred expense owning a generator because there is, because you have to maintain it,
Mhm.
and service, once a year. But at the same time, I think there's merit, if I may, having it all done, then we have the generator, because we had a situation here this past year where people were calling us because we have a generator in our home. I mean, just for housing purposes for our community. I mean, there's some elderly here and even young people that they need to just try to stay warm. I'm not suggesting it's a fallout shelter,
Right.
but it wouldn't hurt.
No, I agree. And that's, that kind of where I go back and forth on that, right? It would really be nice to have it and have it in place. It's a pretty sizable generator. And so the cost is there. We could definitely work with the manufacturer as well and getting a maintenance plan with it.
And the John's,
That it'd be propane.
And diesel.
Oh,
Diesel.
DC.
Yeah, we talked about that, but right,
Oh, yes,
and propane companies wouldn't come in here during the ice storm,
Yeah.
but diesel, we could
Oh, good.
refuel it ourselves.
the John's point is it's really bad. You may need to get that rented generator down.
Right, and we didn't have it on site.
Good discussion.
It's good though.
Thank
Any other
you.
questions? Take it. Okay. Where are we at? Roof, slide roof.
I'll make this quick. Made a roof. We noticed about a little over a month ago, Rick pointed out to me, we've got some heating on this one side, and some shingles missing and so forth. We need a new roof, and we needed sooner rather than later. I'm batting for before winter, because this is a barn. We don't have, there's not the right elevator, or the ventilation that we would need, because of the vaulted ceiling. So we're looking at the scope, we want to put a scope together. And whether we want to go with a shingle roof or we want to go with a metal roof. That's obviously going to depend on cost, but we need to get a budget together. And then we need to competitively bid it. We've had a few people here, members look at it. I think everybody's in the same opinion. That we've done repairs to it, maintenance has. We've had companies come in and do repairs. It's due for.
So have you put together anything to go out and get quotes yet?
No, I want to talk about that with management as far as budgets concerned. Again, it's a capital expense. We've got all these different projects. We have to prioritize.
But we don't know how much it is.
No, we don't know how much. it is.
And I actually think that might fall under the depreciation, because you can amortize your roof.
Right, it should be.
Over, yeah,
But
yeah, so. Either take it out of one place or the
Yeah.
other. Go ahead, and Bob, you have a.
Well, yeah, with your permission, I heard about the roof, and so, and I'm a newbie, so I shouldn't be. I own the storage facility down the front, and it's a big roof. And it's in the same weather track as this building. About 2 years ago, I had our commercial roof, we used in Columbus come out and look, and he found that it was hail damage. Okay, and he works directly. We do this a lot for clients and like, and he's pretty good. He negotiates directly with the insurance company, and we've been or he's been very successful. So I asked if he, after I spoke to you, I'll come by next week, look at it and see if there's potential hail damage. And maybe you already have.
I have not.
That's good.
That was,
Okay.
that's something that I was going to mention to you. Personally, my roof at home, we had hail damage. But I didn't know if we wanted to go that direction. That was kind of putting it out there.
I don't see why not. I mean, it's what we have insurance for, right?
So, yeah, I would say most definitely.
I'll give you the gentleman's name and when he's coming to make sure it works with your schedule.
I appreciate that. Then we can get a better idea.
Did Rick have any opinion on structural integrity?
No, but he was leaning towards metal.
I meant I guess the underlayment.
Underlying, yeah.
Sheeting, there are two spots that they've replaced shingles in the past. We've had actually more damage in the backside.
Right.
It's now.
It's really almost as you find, they can't generally determine, they'll sometimes do a moisture test, but
Right.
typically it's like, you probably have more sheet than anticipated or good. Just finding a competent contractor you trust.
And thanks for that.
Okay. Anything else on the roof? Update on the asphalt leveling overlay.
Yeah, so, it was last week, maybe it was the week before, already, I apologize. We had 1,000 tons of asphalt, laid by Mr. Paving. That was contracted with them. We went from Natchez to, up to Wolverine, and then down Mohawk and Cherokee. And I would say it was very successful. Hats off to our maintenance team. It's keep paving for what they did. Pretty big operation. And now we need to talk about next steps, how we're going to maintain our roads. That's a separate discussion.
I don't know, Julie or anyone else, but Rex had offered to help consult on that. I think that we should take him up on that offer and help develop the plan going forward.
Right.
Because he's got all the history. He's a great expert.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, McKee did a fantastic job. Between this and the golf course.
When it's kind of a road, but we have 105 grand per road. So we're pretty close to that now, not quite yet. But keep paving and the kind of actions that are being done. And there's still some areas that we're working on. But moving forward, we need to come up with a long-term program.
I think as we talked with the budgeting or the finance earlier, is the increase in cost, the increase in working roads is considerable. So,
And that's something that's very, everybody.
yeah.
So, I'm sorry. But we are gonna need to look at that as an and board too, moving forward, what our route is. Right now, it's $200 a year. That's a drop in the bucket.
So I'll take the action item, go ahead and contact her.
And I'll send you guys, had mentioned, I had thought I copied everyone, but I only sent it directly to him. So he had sent me some information, so I'll find that and forward it to you also.
No.
Everything, he was
Chris,
the
I don't
chair
know the-
of prayer, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's him.
I'm doing
And the key lives out here, Bob.
Yeah. Anything else?
Just back to the asphalt leveling, this is the first year that we're not doing chip. So I talked to Rick today, just concerned for these roads. He's got some ideas, kind of pre-treat before we have storms and so forth. Number 8 and stuff, but it's not going to set up the same as the chip and seal operation. So again, let's look at our roads, because I get it, I hear it every day, how important our roads are, and they are. They're very, very important for everybody. Am I speaking loud enough?
Somebody will take me.
All right.
Somebody will take me if I'm not.
Anything else on the roads?
No, that's good.
All right, yeah, so the last item, open positions, that we got added. I guess Andy, you want to go through that, or?
Yeah. Obviously, we've got several open positions in Hideaway Hills in our maintenance department, security, the lodge, janitor, / maintenance. I am working with our departments. Let me just back up a little bit. Covering our janitorial duties here at the lodge, clubhouse, and bathroom are our maintenance. And they've been kind of cleaning on a regular basis, but we do need to do that. So I'm in the process right now of putting together job descriptions for full-time employees. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of September. How these next several days go, but I've got information now that I'm able to kind of sort through and discuss about full-time positions. I won't go into detail right now, but it's important that our personnel know what their job responsibilities are, and they've not had job descriptions. So there's longevity here. It's a great place to work. I mean, our longest standing employee has been here for 39 years, and that's Rick O'Neill. So he's been here since the late 70s or early 80s. He's seen good, the bad, the ugly. So we want that longevity with our employees. We do have several employees that have been here for a long time. And their input is very, very important. And we want that as we work on a succession plan. So I think definitely within the management, we need to be looking at this. I'm looking at it very, very closely. Because if something were to happen to someone, we need a replacement. Usually when a person gets, replaces or retires, all that information from here goes with them. So we really need to be looking at it together as a group. So, but you can see that the open positions and what the ideal shifts would need to do. I get together daily with our maintenance and our security and talk about these challenges that we have and that we're facing. Lack of personnel or people needing vacations. So we're coming up with an ideal plan, and just appreciate the input from the community.
So one of the key positions, I think, is that food and beverage supervisor.
Correct.
We have that posted.
I don't know if we have posted, but we did get that.
I think he posted on Indeed.
I think he might have. not 100% sure, but do want to talk with the group about that a little bit more in depth. What that ideal position would be.
And then the four full-time security guards, is that, and that with the addition of the hope of 3 full-time on at any given time, or is that just replacing what we're currently?
So that would be 3 full-time per shift.
Got it, okay.
That way, if there's someone that called off, right, or patient, so that's still fun.
So we're not short 7, we're only short.
Any other comments, questions?
And all of these Andy are in the budget, right?
Yes.
And the only other thought I had from, if this might not work, but the janitor position, have we looked at like some of the outside companies that, they do that?
Yeah.
They do office cleaning.
I've had discussions with that company that I know of. When I worked at the university, we did do some outsourcing.
Right.
Although we did contracting work. I'm playing that at ease right now. I'm seeing how our maintenance does and with the deep cleaning that we're doing on a regular basis. There were supplies that we didn't have, we're ordering now, and so forth, kind of getting improvement. But I still believe that person or persons, I was even thinking along the lines of it could be janitorial / maintenance. So they could do like maintenance work as well as janitorial work. So there's kind of that flexibility. We've had talked with some of our employees, current employees. I want to go within first. If someone's saying, "Hey, I'd like to take the opportunity to sell this. I'd like to do this," then that opportunity is there. I'm a little leery of bringing an outside company in here because of kind of the complexity we have in our departments and stuff. So, but that thought has crossed my mind. That was actually the first thought that crossed my mind. Yeah, outsource. Let's just see how this goes.
Food services is out there, Marty. JJ posted it 7 days ago. So I don't know that we've got it.
And I did get one resume from JJ today that I have not been able to review yet. So,
Okay, thanks.
Andy, just quickly, because if we can do, what's the biggest challenge? I mean, is it geographic location, compensation, or just the overall economy? And getting,
I think it's all 3. I think one of the things is we're competing with the Wendy's, the Walmart, and so forth. So our starting rate is below the starting rate of the reader at Walmart. So like for security, they're looking at weighing the options. I can get full-time benefits working at Walmart doing this, and I gotta save lives, security, and make this. So I think that it's compensation is number 1. Number 2, geographical area. And just the economy overall. And there people are saying, well, I'm not going to drive 60 miles one way.
right, $5 a gallon.
Right.
And have we ever tried shift differential?
We did, and that did not work out.
On what's that?
So for example, if somebody's working Friday, Saturday, Sunday in security, they get extra $5 an hour. Or $2
Late
an
shift
hour.
after skip.
Yeah, night shifts get paid more.
It didn't work out very well. I won't go into it. That was actually right now.
And that's my biggest concern, like, for this particular is just making sure, I'll be quiet. Just making sure we, the community is based on not only who lives here, but who works here. And the ability to compensate them more than fairly. I mean, I'm a guy that's very conservative, right? Money, but at the same time, it's a benefit, the business community if you have good employees and the retention. And I think you gotta be careful too. It's like, I love when I get a call from Time Warner, hey, you're a new customer, so we're gonna give you $100, a year. And how about me? I've been there for 5 years. It cost me $150. I'm sorry. So I mean, so when you,
quit.
so when you offer a competitive wage, McDonald's bar guys are down there, and women are making $13. I was like, that isn't cool. So, I mean, I don't know. I get upset because I just think, I don't think they're paid enough.
I would agree with you there. Had these discussions on our, well, look at our security, our maintenance, been here for a long time. And they're loyal to this place, they're dedicated to this place in regards to our safety, in regards to, to get around. So that's why it's so important that we recognize these projects and the long term of these projects, make it a little bit easier on them. They're seeing a road deteriorate, people saying, why aren't you helping us here? We're like, we don't have so much money, so many personnel. So it is a fine line, it's a good balance, but I agree. Give them a better wage. Anybody else have one? No. Again, I appreciate everybody's input. Like them alone.
So what can we do to help in the next couple of weeks?
I think number one is kind of getting the word out there. And we've done these open positions. Let people know that it's a great place to work.
Like job fairs you hear about all the time, down in Florida, Publix where they invite everybody wants to become whatever, I think a lot of people at Hawking Community College, I don't know those you got 100 years ago, but some of the folks coming from that graduate, they're wonderful, resourceful, great. We ever thought of like having a job fair, something like that there?
I don't know if we ever, I'm not sure what they've done in the past, as far as. I worked in Hawking College.
You do?
Remember, I remember the job fairs that we had and so forth. It was very narrowed down to either nursing or natural resources, and or public safety. But if you use an example of our security personnel, we're not necessarily looking for an ex-police officer or ex-military and so forth. Sometimes that can backfire on you. What we're looking for is someone who is dedicated to their job, is flexible to their job, enjoys talking to people, being in the community, being on the lake, patrolling the lake, that kind of stuff. So what could you do? Let's get the word out. And we have some open positions that we are hiring. Have them talk to me. Have them talk to our security personnel. And see the longevity there. I think that's one thing that's lost in our society today is longevity. And there was a study done several years back. You have our grandparents that worked jobs for 40 years, and retired from there. But now we have, the average job is like 2 years, and they're on to something else. So how can we make it attractive for?
And we are competing with everything. You can't walk in anywhere that doesn't have a help wanted sign anywhere.
I think Amy's correct. I think sometimes you reach out on a personal level, whether you get great service somewhere and you let them know that you would be a great asset down here. Have you ever heard about it? Those things go a long way. They get names and then.
Yeah.
So,
Like even if we just say, Rick, why are they here? Why?
Yeah.
Write it down and then send that out to
to people.
prospects.
Yeah.
That's how.
Good conversation on that.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a lot of work we can still do for the rest of the year and be ready. So there are no e-votes from there. Julie, any expenditure requests?
No.
No. Any new business items that we want to talk about?
I wanted to give an update on the health and wellness.
Okay,
And, I just wanted to let folks know that the bricks are coming in. So look for info on those. We were hoping they'd be here Saturday, maybe next week. So for those who been patiently waiting, those are on their way. So, and then also the health and wellness, as we started, and our vision and our goal has been that we will pay for the upkeep on the building, which would be our electric, our cable bill, and our security. So our plan is to do that with sponsorships. So we're going to begin to pay the club back funds that they have been kind enough to assist us with. So we should be making it ongoing with that. There is a lake run on November 5th. Those things will be used, those fundraisers are used for new equipment and different things we might want you might want folks, we have suggestion boxes at the fitness center. So when people say they're looking for a certain thing, that's where we'll spend those funds.
Bob was telling me that he's going to challenge any and all comers on the race.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not going to forum wise us run that race.
I know.
Like the Boston Marathon. I'm freaking disappointed. with that. We joined, we had a little bit of money. I thought they lost it. You have to be old.
Everybody goes.
That was great.
That's great. We do, they do get about 15 to 20 folks per day on an average. So I know I'll have people go, I don't see anybody ever there. Unless you're sitting there every day, every hour, you might not see them. But yeah. Get good response from me. Dee Dee does an exercise class on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And they're using it now, and we have yoga on Saturday morning. So thanks.
Good deal. Anybody else have anything?
I think so.
No. Do we need an executive session this evening? So thanks everybody for attending, and John, Bob, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. We will call it a meeting. We are adjourned.